one day I was watching Hamlet, and in Hamlet, of course, at the beginning, Hamlet's father, as a ghost, appears on the parapet of the castle, and he says, "Revenge my death." And it really struck me, and I thought, what would happen if somebody had a ghost appear to them in 20th century America and said, "Revenge my death"? And I thought, boy, there's a really good idea for a movie.
I was looking for a movie to do, and people were sending a lot of comedies, of course. I said I didn't care what it was, just something that was interesting, and actually I didn't want to do another satire. I was lucky that I had a good relationship with Lindsay Duran, who was an executive at Paramount, who said, well, gee, the best piece of material we have is a script called Ghost.
I was told by Lindsay Duran, sit down, I have to tell you something. She said, are you sitting? I said, yes. She said, I have a director for your movie. And I'm going, oh my God, Spielberg, Scorsese, whatever your mind goes to. And she said, Jerry Zucker wants to direct your movie. I said, Jerry Zucker? You mean Airplane, Jerry Zucker?
Bruce Rubin, has famously said he cried when he heard that, was told that Jerry Zucker was directing his movie.
I called Jerry and I said, Jerry, okay, let's do something. You and I are going to go out to dinner. Let's have a dinner in which we can talk about everything in the world except ghosts. He said, okay. So we went out to dinner, and it was one of the great dinners. I mean, we connected, we just bonded.
We did everything together. I didn't run off and rewrite, anything, but we did the structuring together. Bruce did all the writing.
So he was invested in it in a way that most directors don't get invested in material because they haven't been on the journey of creating it. This allowed Jerry, through 19 drafts that we wrote, to come to the point where we almost were at the beginning of both of us understanding this movie completely.
When I sat down and read it, I knew I had to do this movie. But when I started looking into it, tons of actors had turned it down. I'm like, well, why? But then when I started looking at the concept of playing Sam Wheat, you understood. He wasn't a character. They had written him like a ghost who is not present.
It was a very reactive role, and actors tend to like characters that are gritty, talking accents or put on disguises.
And most people think, including me as the writer, when Sam kind of disappears on the page, that he's just not in the scene. But when you start to shoot the movie, this person is there.
His agent called and said, can he read for the role, which Patrick was beyond at this point. He was offered a lot of parts without having to go in and read for it, but he loved this script, he wanted this part, and I guess I just imagined someone different.
Jerry wanted to see him on film, and so we went out and saw the movie Roadhouse. And we walked out of that movie, and Jerry said to me, "Over my dead body."
Jerry Zucker said, "Over my dead body will Roadhouse Patrick Swayze play this role." And I went, oh, that's not promising.
But Patrick, was gutsy, and he wanted the role, so he came in and read for it, which I think more actors that don't have to should.
I did 6 scenes, and at first it was like, okay, prove it, But as I went on, I could feel them warming up, and I warmed up. I started realizing that this could be one of those roles of a lifetime.
He read the end of the movie, and we all had tears in our eyes. As soon as he left the room, I said, well, he's got the part. I mean, it's just, this guy's, he's great.
I just don't want the bubble to burst. Seems like, whenever anything good in my life happens, I'm just afraid I'm going to lose it.
It was an extremely unique, fantastic love story, and it was on the page. And of all things that I knew, of all the elements, I knew that worked. If someone were to pitch this idea and say, I've got this great idea, it's a love story with a dead guy, with the comic relief as a charlatan, anybody in their right mind would have said thanks, but no thanks.
Demi had done a lot of smaller movies. People certainly knew who she was, but she wasn't a box office star. She wasn't, what they would refer to as bankable.
I mean, Demi was something we all knew from day one. Demi was the person we wanted for this movie. She just seemed to embody Molly, her strength, her power, her beauty, her sweetness. She just had a feel about her that was Molly in my mind.
Molly could be anybody. She's anybody. It doesn't matter. She could have been a banker. She could have been a florist. It's not about what she did. It's about how she feels towards the man she loves.
It's hard when you're casting a love story because sometimes it feels right and sometimes it doesn't. Patrick and Demi, off screen didn't have any particular chemistry. I think it happened on screen.
This is set up as a very straightforward relationship movie. Do you love me, Sam?
What do you think?
Why don't you ever say it?
What do you mean, why don't I ever say it? I say it all the time. I feel like...
No, you don't. You say ditto, and that's not the same. They have some questions. They each have their insecurities, and I think that they're dealt a raw hand.
Baby, hold on. You're gonna be okay. Somebody!
I heard about ghosts. A friend of mine had come over to my apartment and said, "Oh, I'm getting ready to go to this audition. Every black woman and their mother has been out there trying to get this part. People have raised themselves from the grave to try to get this part." And I went, "Oh," and I called my agent and said, "Is there a reason I haven't heard about it, or should I not even think about it?" And he said, "Well, they don't want you, actually." I said, "Oh, any reason?" Any reason, like I can't even do an audition? They said, "Well, they just feel that you're too well known."
We began this journey of looking at all of these extraordinary African-American actresses in Hollywood, one after another, but they were giving us this drama and this, these incredibly impassioned readings, but the part was falling dead flat.
For Oda Mae, they were going to Oprah Winfrey and Tina Turner and all these different people.
All I know is that every woman of color, people painted themselves to get this part.
So when they were looking to cast these other people, I just had Whoopi stuck in my head.
I had a call from my agent saying, "Remember that movie that they didn't want you for?" I said, "Yes." "Well, they've cast Patrick Swayze," and I thought, "Okay, that's great. Why are you telling me that? Why are you calling me? I'm not managing Patrick." He said, "Well, Patrick doesn't want to proceed unless he can audition with you at least once."
Went to her apartment, and she and I just did the script for Jerry, and they cast her.
"He's coming. He's there. He's dressed in a black suit." "Black suit? Could be blue."
What a crock of shit.
Who is that?
Don't you hear? You better.
So many people consider Whoopi a comedian at that time, and it was so not true. I saw a true, brilliant actress.
I do think it was tailor-made, written for me, so I don't feel so bad about other folks not getting it. If anybody can be a scam artist, it's me. Who's the biggest scam artist? Who's got a career because they're a scam artist? Me.
Whoopi took that role and lifted it up like a rocket ship. I mean, she just, they were made for each other.
He wants me to tell you what he's saying word for word.
Molly, you're in danger.
Now, you can't just blurt it out like that. And quit moving around, will you? Because you're starting to make me dizzy. I'll just tell her in my own way. Molly, you in danger, girl.
Carl is in no way a stereotypical kind of young, professional New York guy.
This is not a joke. She knows about the murder. I want you to find this bitch, whoever she is. And I want you to just get rid of her, okay?
Tony came in and he was, nobody had heard of him before, but he was the husband of the production designer, Jane Muskie.
His agents, convinced them. They said, just let him read like everyone else. And he read on tape because they wouldn't see him, but they said, let him at least do that. So when Jerry went home that weekend, he saw his tape and he came in and he knew we were married. He had met Tony. He came in that Monday morning. He said, I think Tony could do this part. And I was like, really? And I think a lot of the reason he went for it was because he knew we'd be together.
Tony and Jane, because they were together for the shoot of Ghost, they conceived a child.
What Paramount had decided early on was that most of the film had to be shot in Los Angeles. At that point, when we did it, it was much cheaper to shoot in LA versus New York.
We have to cheat it a little bit. Okay, that's much better.
We knew we were bound to the stages at Paramount for most of the work.
Jerry is a great guy, great director too. It's sensitive, smart, no ego.
My memory is coming in prepared and saying, Adam, I thought we'd shoot from here and come around. And Adam looking at the set, and then all of a sudden I'd see him, he'd be in, Jetty, come here, look at it this way, look at it this way. And of course he'd have found a much better way to shoot the scene.
I love Adam. He said he was going to give us the look of a festival movie. This was going to be he's really going to light this movie. And he really did, and it was stunning.
I remember very well, like today, coin comes up to there and like this across her face, you know. I even remember his lens, 85mm lens, because I wanted to isolate her from all around. But the lighting, I think, what it does a lot, it's kind of a little bit magic, you know.
I was the youngest of the bunch, so I was very happy to have Adam's input because he had been such a seasoned DP at that point. So we really had a nice time together. Could really sit and talk about the look of it.
Jane Muskie is fantastic. She's a New York designer, and it was a New York movie that we were shooting most of in LA. She really has a fantastic subtle eye.
Whoa!
If you look at the movie, it doesn't scream, hey, what do you think of the production designer?
I have to be thankful to her because she built such a beautiful loft. And she gave us great backing.
We knew that Molly worked at home. She was a practicing artist of some kind. When I designed the loft, I had visited so many lofts, and I remember I went into this one potter's loft where they had basically taken a piece of their living room and had walled it off to create a workspace. Everyone had their own different world. Whoopi's character had a world.
Let us begin.
We got all the craziness of her older sort of 20s wallpapers where they had these big patterns also, but dark because it was like a seance.
It's too difficult. I just can't seem to make contact. I don't feel his bar. No, wait!
Jane Muskie, she was just able to make everything exactly what it ought to be. Have it pop, but yet be believable. Visually interesting, but yet not to the point where you're just shooting eye candy.
Jerry and I, we had a lot of conflicts, but I feel in a healthy way.
I was so headstrong about that film, felt that it was such great material and that the performances were great, and there were, you know, of course, like any film, there were also times when I wanted to, you know, jump out a window.
It's not the time. It's nothing to do with time. It's just that you're I'm not talking a long time, Jerry. I'm just talking about your stuff. Looks around. Bingo.
I love volatile situations as long as it's not about ego, but it's about a mutual goal. You know, I love to scream, yell, holler, and Jerry's not a scream, yell, or hollerer, so I think I was a little intense for him. But we got a really wonderful working relationship because I truly trusted his eye and his heart. I knew when Jerry said he got it, that he got it.
Jerry Zucker let my comedic mind wander. He was, for me, like Steven Spielberg in that he knows what you have in you. So he wants to see what it is. And if there's something he wants to tweak, then he tweaks it.
Jerry did all those airplane movies and stuff, so this guy knows comedy. So he was the perfect being to work with me and Whoopi.
Rita, it looks like you'll be withdrawing $4 million from us today.
$4 million? Say yes. Say yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That's correct.
Bruce and I kept telling people, it's going to be a huge hit, don't you see? It's going to be great, and we started to believe it.
I think we all just got to a point where we realized that we were one big happy family that just made a great picture.
It's always the ones that really become a family and really become like a team, you know, and that nobody's out for ego, and everybody's out to do something special. When those moments happen on a film, every time it's successful in my life.
The fact that the potential failure was so high, you know, made it so incredibly good.
Every Sunday morning, Jerry would call me with the numbers. And we would keep beating out all these great films that were coming in that were supposed to be these huge, huge movies. And Ghost was still the movie.
It was a movie that surprised everybody, because I don't think anybody was really prepared for the response to it. I don't think anybody was prepared for the response to it, you know, and it suddenly was like this huge blockbuster.
I really think it was a blessing to have that movie come into my life. And it's a blessing to have it change so many other people's lives all over the world, and still doing it.
I was floored that we got 5 nominations. I mean, I just never had dreamed of anything like that. And when Whoopi and Bruce won, I could just get up and scream and do a little dance.
You know, you get those movies, if you're lucky, that are just fun. And it was fun to go to work. A pleasure, actually. Not all movies are like that, but this one was.